My parents threw a luxurious party for my sister's 21st birthday and spent all the money they had, leaving nothing for my 18th. But at the birthday celebration I organized for myself, everything turned into a disaster for them once I told the truth. Hi everyone, I turned 18 2 days ago, and what happened really shows why my life feels like such a mess. To begin with, let me tell you that my mom, who's 46, and my dad, who's 48, clearly favor my older sister, Yalam, who's 21, over me. The problem started when I planned a birthday celebration with my own money, and that caused some issues with the extended family. My extended family, including grandparents, uncles, aunts, and cousins, live fairly close, so we're all pretty connected and see each other often. In our family, every child who turns 18 gets a big birthday party, a sort of milestone into adulthood. My sister got hers, of course, and I was expecting to have mine too. Except my parents ended up telling me they couldn't celebrate my birthday at all because they had spent every bit of money they had on throwing my sister a huge 21st birthday party. She had already gotten her big 18th birthday party years ago, but she felt like she needed to outshine one of our cousins who had celebrated their 18th just a month before Yalam's 21st. She'd been crying and complaining about how our cousin's party was bigger, which made her look jealous and insecure. So she demanded another big party for her 21st just to feel better about herself. And in our house, whatever Yalam wants, Yalam gets. So our parents went all out for her birthday and hosted quite a large event. Honestly, I didn't care that my sister cried her way into another party just because the first one wasn't big enough to overshadow everyone else's. What I didn't expect was for my parents to cancel my own milestone birthday just so they could celebrate hers. About a month ago, I approached them and asked what they had planned for my 18th birthday. I wanted to invite some friends, so I needed details. My parents casually told me that I wasn't going to have a party at all. Their reasoning? They had blown too much money on Yalam's fancy birthday. They hadn't saved for it, so they used every penny they'd put aside for my 18th, and more. And if I'm being honest, I'm sure my party never would have even come close to the one my sister got for her 18th. Basically, my parents chose my sister's whim over my milestone, and that was that. It wasn't exactly shocking. I honestly think my parents would sacrifice me tomorrow if Yalam wanted a third boob and the devil offered it to her. By that point, I knew getting angry or starting an argument was pointless. I'd tried to talk to them about their obvious favoritism hundreds of times. It's nothing new, and it never changed anything. So I just ignored them and went to my room. I wasn't going to beg my parents to give me money for my own birthday. I may not be fully grown, but I do have a job. So when some of my cousins started asking if I was doing anything for my birthday, I told them yes. They were a little confused because my parents hadn't sent out invitations like they usually did. Everyone had expected an invite, since that's what happened for both of Yalam's parties. So I decided to take matters into my own hands. I personally called everyone and invited them to join me at a local restaurant for my birthday. I was determined to host my own party since my parents wouldn't. Some relatives asked why my parents weren't inviting them, but I just said I was in charge of my party this time and wanted to do things my way. I knew they'd probably feel a little disappointed hearing that there wouldn't be a big, fancy party. And I'll admit, I felt a bit embarrassed too, since all my cousins and my sister had these incredible milestone celebrations, and mine was going to be just a simple dinner at a nearby restaurant. I actually work at that restaurant as a waitress, so I used my employee discount. I had been saving up, so covering a nice dinner for everyone wasn't a problem. My friends, who already knew about the situation at home, kindly told me I didn't need to pay for them, that they'd treat me as their gift. I may not have the best parents, but I definitely have the best friends. Anyway, I invited my whole family to the dinner I organized for myself. I was really looking forward to it, because I knew it would be the only family celebration I'd get. My parents were so wrapped up in themselves they even forgot to wish me a happy birthday. And Yalam? She's never bothered to congratulate me in the past either. So I wasn't expecting her to congratulate me this year either. I got dressed, first went to the birthday lunch my friends had organized, and then to the family dinner I had planned. The birthday lunch was amazing, honestly, I think it topped any other birthday celebration I've ever had. My friends put in so much effort. It was incredible how much thought they put into making something special for me. I truly think their celebration erased any sadness or pain I felt about not being able to have a big party like my cousins. Still, I was also really looking forward to the family dinner. I know my extended family loves me, so I was excited to celebrate my special day with them. From the start, I noticed everyone at the table looked a little confused and unsettled. No one really said anything, but I could tell they hadn't expected such a simple party. Everyone did their best to seem happy and they showered me with love, but I could also feel a little disappointment. When the dishes started coming out, people seemed even more confused. Then my grandparents asked where my parents were and when they'd be arriving. I told them they weren't coming. I think my grandparents realized something was wrong. At first, they probably assumed I'd just had some silly fight with my parents, and that was it. But I didn't want to lie or hide what was going on, so I told them the real reason why my parents weren't there. Nobody said much or asked too many questions, probably because they didn't want to ruin my birthday. The rest of the evening went pretty well, and everyone seemed to enjoy the meal. There were a few raised eyebrows when I paid the bill myself, but overall, I'd say it was a good birthday. The real problem started the next day. My mom and dad stormed into my room, yelling about how I had embarrassed them in front of the whole family. Through their shouting, I pieced together that my grandparents and some other relatives had confronted them, scolding them for their blatant favoritism and for not even showing up to the birthday dinner I had organized. To be fair, I hadn't invited them, but the truth was clear. My parents were furious with me, saying I should never have thrown a birthday celebration in the first place, and definitely not told everyone it was because of my sister. They'd been extremely angry with me and even punished me for disrespecting them in front of the family. My sister also came into my room to insult me, because our cousins had been giving her some harsh words and she didn't like that kind of attention. She only likes attention when it's about the nice things she gets, like a big birthday party, not when people see her for who she really is. The good news is I'm 18 now, so their punishment doesn't really mean much. They also called me selfish and entitled for complaining to my grandparents about how my parents did nothing for my birthday and only focused on giving my sister whatever she wanted. But the thing is, I wasn't going to lie. And I wasn't going to go without a birthday celebration just because my parents love me less, or maybe don't love me at all. My friends know about all this, and they've offered me a place to stay if I ever need it. So I'm not afraid of my parents' threats. And as for telling the truth, even though I didn't mean to make my parents look bad, I knew people would have questions if my parents didn't show up. If they didn't want negative attention, they could have chosen not to throw that huge 21st birthday party for my sister, or at least saved a little money to do something small for me. But since they didn't, I wasn't going to just sit in my room all day. I did what I had to do, and if that clashes with their version of reality, that's not my fault. All I really wanted was a small celebration with my extended family, and that's it. Now my parents are blaming me for making them look bad in front of everyone. I've talked to my friends and family about this, and they all think I didn't do anything wrong and that I don't deserve my parents' anger. But my parents and my sister are driving me crazy. The cousins closest to my age have been texting me and asking why my parents did what they did, because even with their favoritism, they don't understand why my sister is so clearly preferred over me. They want to know the hidden reason why my parents are this horrible, and I don't have an answer, because I don't even know myself. The only thing I know is that they've been terrible parents, and that now that I'm 18, it's just going to be a problem as long as I live here. I do have the option of staying with friends, but I don't want to use it unless absolutely necessary. I know how difficult it can be when guests overstay their welcome. And since I don't have college plans, it's not like I'll be moving out in a few months anyway. Edit, many of you have been messaging me and leaving comments. I can't reply to everyone. So I made a small edit to add a few details. Some of you guessed correctly that my sister is the golden child. Honestly, I didn't even know that term until people here pointed it out. To me, she was simply the favorite, and that was it. But after looking it up, I can say with certainty, it fits her perfectly. Frankly, I don't know why my parents are like this. I really don't have an answer for people who ask what I did wrong, because my parents have treated me this way all along. All I know is that my parents have always preferred my sister over me, in every possible way. For those saying I'm the bad one because I intentionally left my parents off the guest list out of revenge or pettiness, I have one question: so what? Even if that had been my plan, to embarrass them, it would be nothing compared to everything they've done to me. And for those saying that since I was already 18 and could afford my own party, then I shouldn't complain, well, that's exactly what I did. I paid for my own party. I guess my parents and my sister aren't as unique as I thought. From the comments section, I can see there are many people out there who act the same way, thinking they have the right to treat others badly, but when those others finally get tired and do something about it, suddenly they're the bad ones. Luckily, those negative voices are just a small minority. But still, they twist everything to make me look like the villain, for wanting to have a birthday celebration like everyone else in this family. My parents didn't even remember my birthday at all. Only after the rest of the family confronted them did they finally find out what had happened. And even then, I didn't get a belated happy birthday from them. My sister, of course, made a snide remark about how she doesn't eat in cheap places once she found out where I held my dinner. I know she said it maliciously, because it's not a bad restaurant at all. But in her eyes, it was cheap because I worked there, and because it wasn't some fancy 5-star place. And let's be real, if I had invited my parents, it probably would have been weird anyway. It didn't look anything like the kind of parties we traditionally do in this family. Even if they had come, I'm sure they would have told me to cancel, made up some excuse like I was sick, and pushed me to skip it altogether. Either way, they would have ended up looking bad, and that's not my fault. Update 1. This update is really just to clear my thoughts and talk things out. It's not about anything concrete. But people asked, and I feel like I owe it. Because even though I highlighted the negative comments in my last post, this time I want to highlight the positive ones, the people who are also sick of parental favoritism. I'm grateful for that. Grateful that there are so many people like that out there, because if the proportion of people like my parents and my sister is much smaller than the rest, then society is in a much better place. I say this because I've always felt the opposite, that the ratio was flipped. In my family of 4, 3 of them were like that, so I had no hope. I grew up with the belief that parents should never be questioned. I tried many times to tell them how I felt neglected and overshadowed by my sister. Every time, my parents would argue and yell at me, calling me ungrateful, selfish, and entitled for saying they weren't doing enough for me. By the time I was around 14, I realized they probably didn't have any legitimate reason for their favoritism. I just assumed maybe they couldn't help hating me and loving my sister. When I was younger, I used to cry a lot about their favoritism. Always in secret, where no one could see or hear me. My parents hated when I cried, apparently, I was just an annoyance. But when my sister cried, they would run to give her whatever she needed. Yeah, they gave her a second big party, after all. What bothers me the most is that when I tell people the truth, it makes my parents look terrible, but instead of realizing that the problem isn't the messenger, but them, they find it easier to use me as the scapegoat. Yes, I read that word in a comment, and I'm going to use it. Over time, I stopped crying about it completely. I knew I couldn't change anything, so I just grew numb to it. I'd be lying if I said I felt nothing, but at least it hurt less. I kept bottling up all those feelings until the day I posted here. I'll admit, I cried a lot that night. All that pain had built up for so long, it just needed to come out. But the kind comments and overwhelming support I got from all of you completely surprised me, in the best way possible. Maybe I've gone numb to the unfair treatment at home, but that doesn't mean I don't feel anything at all. I've been thinking more and more about just how unfair my parents have really been. Hi, I've been analyzing everything from different perspectives, and here's the result: my parents still treat me with indifference. They think they've punished me, but since I haven't had to go anywhere beyond school, I haven't really pushed back against that punishment. But if a friend invites me somewhere, or if I need to do something that goes beyond their so-called restrictions, I'll just act like the 18-year-old that I am. I think my parents forgot I turned 18, because they've been too busy with their problems, in quotes. Update 2. Guys, I am extremely moved by all the support you've given me here. I've received direct messages from several people who even wanted to send me money so that I'd have something to rely on if my parents ever actually kicked me out. I truly appreciate it, but I'd feel guilty taking help from strangers when I already have a support network. My friends have already offered me a place, and I think my extended family would step in if it ever came to that. I heard you all loud and clear when you said I needed to gather proof of my parents' favoritism beyond just the birthday party, so it wouldn't look like an isolated incident. It took me 2 days, but I managed to collect evidence, audio and written, where my parents admitted that they didn't throw me a party because they had no money left after spending everything on Yalam's 21st. I had to have a couple of conversations with my parents to get that proof, but I think I did a pretty good job based on what I captured. So I gathered as much evidence as I could and then went over to my grandparents' house to show them. They already knew about what happened because they were at my birthday, but this time I brought concrete proof. For context, when I say extended family, I mean my dad's side. My mom's family lives farther away, so we don't have much contact with them. My grandparents on my dad's side are incredibly loving and kind, so clearly, my dad didn't inherit favoritism from them. We can rule that out as the cause of why my parents are like this. On my mom's side, I thought it was the same, though we've had less contact. In fact, my maternal grandma had been insisting on having lunch with me recently, probably just to see how I was doing. My parents actually let me go, because when they asked where I was going, I told them the truth, and I think they assumed I was going to make peace or something. They didn't know I was carrying ammo to sink them. It's one thing to say, my parents play favorites and didn't throw me a party. It's another thing entirely to show audio and written proof of them flat out admitting it. My grandparents were horrified. I felt bad unloading like that because my grandma looked like she was about to have a heart attack. Thankfully, she didn't, but my grandpa looked like he was ready to rip someone's heart out and hand it to her as a replacement if necessary. You can imagine how many hugs and kisses I got from them afterward. I didn't do it for that, but I won't deny, it felt good to finally receive the love my parents won't give me. I've always been happiest when I'm with my grandparents and cousins. I feel safer and more loved with my uncles and aunts than I do with my own parents. That's why the rest of the extended family never really saw the favoritism, because whenever I was with them, I was genuinely a happy kid. Some relatives did find it odd that my parents spent so much money on Yalam's 21st birthday, but they never said anything since it was their money. My grandparents asked me to send them all the proof. Well, to send it to my grandma, because my grandpa is one of those people who thinks mobile phones are cursed by the devil. Not literally, but every time I try to teach him, it's useless. My grandma, on the other hand, loves to chat with her friends and organize things, so she learned quickly. My grandpa sticks to calling his buddies on the landline, grunting at them as code for golf or fishing. Each grunt means something different, and it's hilarious to hear. That same night, they held a small family video call. The next day, they decided to confront my parents directly. Do you want to know what happened? My parents told them exactly what they'd been telling everyone, that I was mad at them, that I didn't want them to throw me a party, and nonsense like that. But with the evidence, they couldn't get very far. It was like they were asking the family to use their imagination while there was a giant elephant in the room pointing at the truth. As this post is already getting too long, I won't go into further detail about what happened afterward. In summary, right now, I'm staying at my grandparents' house. I spoke with them this morning, and they offered to let me stay as long as I need, no limit, no deadline. When my grandparents told me I could live with them, I jumped at the chance. Today is Saturday, so I don't have school tomorrow. I also took the day off work because I know things will only get worse after this. Honestly, I don't know what my future looks like. College was never part of my plans. My parents and my sister have been sending me messages, but I haven't read a single one. I'm letting my grandparents handle it, because that's what they want to do, and they've asked me to let them. Update 3. Hi, I'm so sorry I've been gone for weeks. I knew things would get bad when I left my parents' house, but I didn't expect a full-blown forest fire, followed by an earthquake, and then topped off with a tsunami. Here's what happened. My grandparents had planned to visit my parents to have a serious talk with them. What I didn't know was that they called in reinforcements. They reached out to all my aunts and uncles so the whole family could stage a sort of intervention. My aunts and uncles shared the same anger and disappointment as my grandparents. In this family, we don't tolerate favoritism. They all came together, showered me with hugs, kisses, and gifts. Yes, they even brought me piles of snacks to help with my stress eating. They also brought their kids so I'd have company and support, especially if my parents tried calling with any more drama. I can't give you every single detail of what went down at my parents' house, but it wasn't pretty. Things spiraled out of control. Apparently, there was a huge fight that escalated to the point where the police were involved. Everyone was shouting so much that the neighbors eventually called the police to file a noise complaint. One of my aunts later told me that my parents said awful things about me during that argument. No, I'm not the child of an affair. But at one point, my dad suspected I might be. My mom had an affair, and my dad found out while she was pregnant with me. She refused to do a prenatal DNA test, so they had to wait until I was born to confirm. From what I've been told, the family went through hell during that time. My parents were on the brink of divorce, and my sister was also affected by all the chaos. When I was born, they tested, and it turned out I was my dad's biological daughter. But by then, there was already too much resentment, too many bad memories tied to me. My mom associated me with how horrible her life felt during that pregnancy. My dad associated me with her betrayal. He couldn't get the thought out of his head that I might have been another man's child. And my sister hated me simply because she wanted our parents all to herself. My aunt, who works as a therapist, was the one chosen to gently tell me the truth about why my parents had always hated me. She said it was best if it came from her, and honestly, I'm glad it did. I needed to know. Now that I know the reason behind their behavior, I have no doubt, my parents are truly horrible people. They destroyed me mentally and neglected me because of their own issues. I was just an innocent child, and I ended up paying the price for their mistakes. Since that day, I've decided to cut off all contact with them. My parents have left texts apologizing, saying they feel guilty, that they want to make amends, that they want to fix things. But part of me knows exactly why they're suddenly regretful. I've been told that my grandparents are disinheriting my parents and my sister. As far as the will goes, there is no will for them anymore. Like a wise poet once said, nothing. The rest of the family has also cut them off. Now my parents are desperate, trying to patch things up, because they're alone and isolated. They've left me voicemails from different numbers, crying and begging me to speak with them. To be honest, I don't think I'll ever talk to them again. Now that I'm living with my grandparents, my mental health has improved drastically. Even though I've learned horrible truths about my parents, I feel less stressed and more genuinely happy than I ever did before. My grandparents even got me into therapy, and the rest of the family checks in on me regularly. They even organized a big surprise birthday celebration to make up for the one I missed on my actual birthday. It was incredible. They even invited my friends without me knowing. That day was honestly the best of my life, surrounded by people who truly love me. For the first time, I realized, I don't need toxic parents in my life. So as far as I'm concerned, they will not be in my life. Yalam has, of course, sent me some nasty messages, but I blocked her too. I don't wish her to go to hell, but she's out of my life for good. Edit, someone in the comments asked if my sister was ever DNA tested too, since my mother had cheated before I was born. Honestly, I thought that was a very good question, so I asked around. As far as I know, no, she never was. And no one in the family thinks she ever was tested. I guess they never had any suspicions about her. Update 4. And here I thought my earlier updates had been turbulent, but this one really tops them. My aunt, the therapist, the one I had spoken to about that comment in my previous post, decided to dig deeper. She spoke to my sister about it directly. My sister hadn't known anything, but she ordered one of those DNA kits anyway. It came back showing she's not related to my father's side of the family. Then they did a direct DNA test with my dad, and no, she's not his daughter. The fallout from this has been absolute chaos in the family, though contained within my immediate relatives. My dad is furious because he's lived with this lie all these years, spending money he didn't have, like on that 21st birthday party, and now feels completely betrayed. My sister is angry because she wants to know who her biological father is, doesn't want anything to do with the man who raised her, and hates the fact that she's not from a traditional family. My mom, well, I don't know why she's even complaining. She's the one who caused all of this. She's the villain behind the curtain pulling the strings. My dad and sister weren't innocent, but if we're ranking villains, my mom takes the crown. As for me, I still haven't spoken to my family. My dad tried to make some sort of approach, but my grandparents blocked it. I haven't even considered unblocking him. He seems pretty alone now, divorced, estranged from my sister, and I don't think he wants much to do with her either. His divorce has gone through, and he's been granted compensation from my mother for the deception. He ended up with the family house, but not much else. Maybe that angered my sister, maybe it was because she already resented him, or maybe because he demanded money from my mom after spending so much on her. Who knows? I'm not close to them, and my dad's family is staying as far away as possible. My sister was already living on her own before all this, and she's not speaking to my mom either. From what I hear, her biggest resentment is that she used to live in her perfect bubble, the best child, with the best things, the best parties, but now people look at her as the child of an affair. That's the last thing she would ever want. My mom has apparently gone back to stay with her own family, but from what I hear, even they barely tolerate her. Only her parents have let her stay, and that's more out of pity than love. They're completely disillusioned with her, but since she's their daughter, they gave her a roof. If she weren't their daughter, they probably wouldn't have. She hasn't tried to contact me, and I don't expect her to. As for me, my grandparents have offered to pay for college if I want, thinking money was the only thing holding me back. But even though I graduated, my grades aren't the best. I could apply to some colleges within my range, but honestly, studying has never been my strength. For now, I've gotten a new job and I'm saving up to move out on my own. I'm not saying I'll never go to college, but I don't think everyone is built for that path either. What I do know for certain is that I will never have a relationship with my parents or my sister. And from what I can tell, some of them don't want one with me either. And that's fine.